Hi, I'm Nate Spencer.
And I'm Clayton Johnson, and you're watching Rash Course History.
What are we learning about today?
Imperialism in the 19th century.
Let's talk about that. First off, we need to know what imperialism is.
Imperialism is the domination of one country of the political, economic, or cultural life of another country or region. The policy of extending a country's power and influence through diplomacy or military force.
So basically, it's when one country decides they're better than another and takes it over.
So at this time in world history, China had a trade surplus with the Western countries, so they exported more than they imported. Until British merchants started selling opium to them.
They traded opium for Chinese tea and for large amounts of silver. The people became addicted to the substance, so they flowed silver from China, ruining their economy.
Many European countries used imperialism because the other countries were already in decline, like China, and Europe had advancements which made people already want to join them. The scramble for Africa is when Europe tried to colonize all of Africa all at the same time.
Right. This was very hard because Africans remembered the slave trades and didn't want Western cultures. Later on, however, a more educated upper class agreed with them and started allowing colonization.
The main reasons Western countries wanted to control Africa was to secure sources of materials to help them feed the industrial revolution that was going on at the time. This also enabled them to have so many colonies. By the 19th century, technology had advanced enough that Western countries could easily win, with steam vehicles and improvements on guns. Their medical technology had improved, giving them some way to fight back against their diseases.
This was the trend for Western countries to conquer lots of declining countries such as India, China, Africa.
One more country that used imperialism was Japan. It was the first Asiatic country to use this. All this started, though, because of trading with other countries. The United States wrote a letter to Japan's government stating that it would be attacked if trading ports were not opened.
So the Treaty of Kanagawa was written agreeing that 2 ports would be open to the United States. Soon after, other countries followed the United States, led and started trading with Japan as well. Japan underwent an industrial revolution.
Other countries started to learn the wealth of Japan, so they wanted to create a colony on their land. Do not be imperialized. It started imperializing other parts of other countries, especially China's lands. Although some of the samurai that were like a government for the Japanese were wiped out for rejecting this new system.
Japan then fought China in the Sino-Japanese War, getting them what is now Korea for trading rights. Japan won, but now Russia was moving into Korea's northern lands.
The intruders of Russia caused the Russo-Japanese War. Japan tried to compromise with Russia, but Russia was not cooperating. Japan won the war.
In summary of Japan's imperialism experiences, in order to not be conquered, Japan had to imperialize others. India was the victim of imperialism. At the start, many of the Western European countries had posts throughout India for trade, but these were not always colonized. Great Britain was one of those countries, and they had most of the control. The British even had some of the Indians joining their armies. They started taking tradable goods from India, like tea, indigo, used for dye and clothing, coffee, cotton, jute, and, of course, opium.
The Indians wanted to bring an end to the Raj, or in other words, a time period when India was under Great Britain's full control. They started rebellions all over and had spread throughout northern and central Asia. Suppose the Indians in the British Army were being jailed for their rebelling outbursts. So why should this matter to us? Well, you see, imperialism still affects us today.
There are pros and cons. Cons are that people are still getting controlled around the world, like little children working at sweaty and unsanitary sweatshops is a consequence of imperialism and colonization. People also feel inferior because they have no control over their own land. Their government isn't independent. Imperialists take all the resources of an area and exploit them by trade.
On a happier note, imperialism also has positively impacted our world. Modern technology and lifestyle easily spreads into a small third world countries around the globe.
Just as Franklin D. Roosevelt said, perfectionism, no less than isolationism, or imperialism, or power politics, may obstruct the paths to international peace. Let us not forget that the retreat to isolation a quarter of a century ago was started by a direct attack against international cooperation, but against the alleged imperfections of the peace.